The Tale of the Jade Purchase at Yodo. Once upon a time, in the province of Chikuzen in the land of Tsuneshi, there was a prominent figure named Sarashige, known by the courtesy title Kyodai in Kyoto. He was a man of influence, with a notable lineage connected to the Daibu family of Hakata. After completing his duties in the province, Sarashige was preparing to travel to Kyoto. To show his respect and appreciation, he arranged to present gifts to the people of Uji and to some acquaintances. Among these gifts, he had borrowed 6 to 7,000 pieces of silk from a trader as a pledge, and in return, he had offered 10 excellent swords as collateral. While traveling to Kyoto, he sent gifts to Uji and to his acquaintances. During the journey, while on a boat at Yodo, Sarashige's followers were resting and having meals. At that moment, a merchant on the boat called out, "Does anyone wish to buy jade?" No one responded to the call. One of Sarashige's attendants, who was on the boat, heard this and approached the merchant. The merchant produced a large, valuable piece of Akoya jade from his waistband and offered it for sale. The attendant, seeing the value of the jade, offered to trade it for his waterware. The merchant, seeing the attendant's genuine interest, agreed. The attendant, after exchanging his waterware for the jade, returned to Sarashige. Although he was initially pleased with the acquisition, he was troubled by the thought that he might have overpaid, and he regretted the trade. Nonetheless, he wrapped the jade and continued with the journey. Upon reaching Kyoto, Sarashige visited the trader from whom he had borrowed the silk, feeling pleased that he had borrowed less than the goods he had obtained. When he met with the lower class trader, he again inquired if there was a desire to buy jade. The trader agreed, and the attendant produced the jade. The trader, examining the jade closely, was astonished and asked how much it cost. The attendant, thinking the jade might be worth a high price, said, 10 pieces of silk. The trader, unsure but tempted, agreed to buy it for that price. The attendant, wanting to sell quickly, accepted the offer. Soon, the boatman, who was in on the conversation, whispered to Sarashige, informing him of the jade. Sarashige instructed his followers to find the jade holder and retrieve it. The boatman ran to the attendant, showing Sarashige where the jade was kept. Sarashige then had the jade examined and was informed that it was indeed of high quality. The attendant, feeling regretful for the earlier exchange, had nothing more to say. He returned the jade and received the 10 swords back from Sarashige. This tale became well known, highlighting the astonishing nature of the jade's value and the remarkable fortune of Sarashige. The story was passed down as a testament to the good fortune and prosperity brought about by Sarashige's actions. Thus, the story has been passed down. The tale of General Toshitoku's journey to Tsuruga, accompanied by a fifth-rank samurai. Once upon a time, General Toshitoku of the Fujiwara clan was appointed as governor of Echizen province. On his journey to take office, he traveled to Tsuruga, escorted by a fifth-rank samurai. At dusk, the two men arrived at a certain village and decided to rest there for the night. The general requested a place to stay from a local villager, and they were led to a humble inn. As the general and his samurai prepared for the evening, the innkeeper warned them, "There is an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of this village that is said to be haunted. Those who have stayed there overnight have never returned." Intrigued by the story, General Toshitoku turned to his companion and said, "Let us stay there tonight." The samurai, although apprehensive, followed the general's command without question. As they arrived at the mansion, the dilapidated structure loomed in the moonlight, casting long shadows over the overgrown garden. They entered the mansion and set up a small camp inside, preparing for any strange occurrences. The general, known for his courage and composure, showed no signs of fear, while the samurai remained vigilant by his side. At midnight, a strange wind began to blow through the mansion, and a faint whisper could be heard echoing through the halls. Suddenly, the figure of a woman appeared, draped in white garments and floating above the ground. The general calmly observed the apparition, while the samurai instinctively reached for his sword. The ghostly woman spoke softly. "I am the spirit of a noblewoman who once lived in this mansion. I died unjustly and cannot find peace. If you wish to leave here alive, you must listen to my tale and fulfill a request." The general nodded and said, "Tell us your story, and we shall help you find peace." The spirit recounted the tragic events of her life, how she had been wronged by a cruel lord and left to die alone in the mansion. Her request was simple. She wished for her story to be remembered and for the injustice done to her to be known. General Toshitoku, moved by her words, vowed to ensure that her tale would be passed down. As dawn broke, the spirit vanished, and the mansion returned to its eerie silence. The general and his samurai left the mansion unharmed, and true to his word, the general had the noblewoman's story recorded and shared throughout the land. Thus, the story has been passed down. Title on Saint Kansen and the encounter with a thief. Once upon a time, a group of young boys wandered aimlessly, and among them was a man known as Saint Kansen. When Kansen was still young and living as a layman, one night while he was at home, someone came and said, "A thief has broken into the storehouse." Everyone woke up, lit a fire, and rushed to the storehouse, including Kansen. However, no thief could be seen. Thinking the intruder was gone, the people began to leave. But Kansen, taking a closer look, noticed a man dressed in a dark hakama hiding in a gap near some jars. Thinking it might be a trick of the eyes, he brought a candle closer and realized it was indeed a man. Trembling uncontrollably, Kansen thought, how desperate must he feel? Suddenly, a bold idea came to him. He sat down directly on the thief's back, saying loudly, "Look thoroughly, there's nothing over here," hoping the thief would understand and stay quiet. Hearing this, the thief began shaking even more. Meanwhile, the others who were searching said, "There's nothing here either," and they all left. As the candle burned out, the room grew dark. Kansen whispered to the thief, "Get up and stay close to me. I'll help you escape because I pity your plight." The thief rose slowly and stayed close to Kansen as they quietly left. Guiding the thief through a gap in the hedge, Kansen said, "Never do this again. I'm letting you go out of pity." With that, he helped the man escape into the night. No one ever learned who the thief was. Years later, after Kansen had left the capital for service in the eastern provinces, he had to return to the capital for urgent business. Along the way, near the barrier mountain passes, a group of thieves ambushed him. As arrows flew, the men accompanying Kansen scattered in fear. Kansen, however, urged his horse into the thick underbrush, thinking he could not be caught. But several thieves emerged from the brush, grabbed the reins of his horse, and forced him to follow them. Kansen thought, if they were just after my clothes or horse, that would be one thing. But the way they are dragging me, it seems they plan to kill me. He was so frightened that he could hardly think clearly. He guessed they had already gone about 50 or 60 town blocks into the mountains. If they intended to kill me, surely they would have done it by now. Kansen thought, completely bewildered. Looking back, he saw a group of fierce-looking men armed with arrows following closely behind. By dusk, they arrived at a mountain valley where there was a large hut. The place seemed strangely prosperous, with 2 or 3 fine horses tied up outside. Large cauldrons hung over fires, boiling water from the valley stream. When they reached the hut, a man who appeared to be about 50 years old, dressed in a water-dry robe and carrying a large sword, ordered them, "Bring him here." Kansen was terrified and trembling, unable to walk properly, so the man came and grabbed him by the hand, leading him inside. The man undressed Kansen and said, "It's cold, isn't it?" He then brought a thick cotton robe and dressed him warmly. Kansen thought, they don't intend to kill me after all. But why are they doing this? He was even more confused. Outside, the thieves had gathered around several cutting boards, preparing various kinds of fish and birds with great care. The leader of the group called out, "Bring the food quickly." The men brought it over, raising it to eye level in a show of respect, and placed it before Kansen. The food was beautifully arranged and tasted indescribably good. Kansen, now completely at ease, ate heartily. After finishing the meal, the thieves heated water in tubs and invited Kansen to bathe. When he finished, they dressed him in new clothes and led him back to the main hut to sleep. At dawn, Kansen was served rice porridge and urged to eat quickly. Around noon, after the meal, the leader of the thieves said, "I would have liked for you to stay a few more days, but you must be eager to return to the capital. So I will send you back today. You must still be confused, but try to remain calm." Kansen, unsure of what to say, simply nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, the attendants who had scattered during the attack returned to the capital. They told Kansen's family, "Our lord was taken by thieves at the mountain pass. He must have been killed by now." Hearing this, Kansen's family was devastated, and the household was filled with the sound of their grief. Back in the mountains, the thieves placed Kansen on his horse and sent him on his way, accompanied by 5 or 6 men. They took a different route through Minami Yamashina to avoid the main roads. Eventually, they passed through the southern gate of Jitoku Temple and over Awataguchi into the Riverside District. As Kansen's home was near the Gojo area, they arrived at night when everyone was asleep. Kansen knocked on the gate with 2 heavy bundles loaded onto his horse. He told the attendants, "Deliver these." When someone from inside asked, "Who is it knocking at the gate?" Kansen replied, "It's me. Open up." Hearing that their lord had returned, the entire household rejoiced and rushed to open the gate. Kansen's family was overjoyed to see him. The 2 bundles were brought inside and opened. One contained 10 bolts of silk brocade and 100 ryo of padded cotton. The other held 10 rolls of fine white cloth and 10 rolls of indigo cloth. At the bottom of one bundle was a letter written in clumsy handwriting. "Do you remember the incident with the storehouse? I haven't been able to forget it, even now. I had no way to express my gratitude, but when I heard you were coming this way, I prepared these gifts to welcome you. I will never forget the joy of that night. If I had been caught then, I would not be here today." Reading this, Kansen finally understood, and his heart was filled with relief. Having returned from the East in such unusual circumstances, Kansen felt both ashamed and relieved to have these unexpected gifts. It was as if he had brought back treasures from a faraway land. Thus, Kansen told this story, marveling at the unexpected fortune he had received. Thus, the story has been passed down. The traveler heading east who lodged in a house where a child was born. 19. Once upon a time, there was a traveler heading east. It is unknown which province he was going to, but as he passed through a village, the sun began to set. Thinking, "I will stay the night in this village," he approached a small but well-built house that appeared prosperous. Dismounting from his horse, he said, "We are travelers, and since it is now late, we would like to stay in this village for the night." An elderly woman with graying hair, who seemed to be the mistress of the house, appeared and said, "Please come in and stay the night." The traveler, delighted, entered the house and sat in what appeared to be the guest area. His horse was taken to the stable, and his servants were also accommodated. The traveler was filled with joy at this warm reception. As the night deepened, the traveler ate and rested. Around midnight, he suddenly heard a commotion from the inner part of the house. Wondering what was happening, the elderly mistress of the house came to him and said, "My daughter, who is staying here, is in labor. She was expected to give birth this month, and I thought she might deliver soon, so I had her stay during the day. Now, it seems the time has come, and the baby could be born at any moment. I worry about what to do." The traveler replied, "That is nothing to be concerned about. I do not mind such matters at all." The woman was relieved and said, "Thank you," and went back inside. After a while, the commotion grew louder, and it seemed as though the child had been born. Then suddenly, near where the traveler was staying, a door opened. From within emerged a figure about 8 feet tall, terrifying in appearance. It made a frightful sound as it walked outside, saying, "He is 8 years old, and scack will be self-inflicted," and then disappeared. Although the traveler wondered what this strange figure had meant, it was too dark to see anything clearly. He decided not to speak of this to anyone and left the house at dawn. 8 years passed, and in the 9th year, the traveler returned, recalling the house where he had stayed and thinking, that place was very hospitable. With that in mind, he sought out the house again and stayed the night just as before. The elderly woman, now even older, came out and welcomed him warmly, saying, "It is wonderful to see you again." During their conversation, the traveler asked, "By the way, on the night I stayed here before, a child was born. That child must have grown up by now. Was it a boy or a girl? I left in such a hurry that I never had the chance to ask." The old woman began to weep and said, "Yes, it is about that. He was a fine, healthy boy. But last year, on the same month and day as his birth, he climbed a tall tree to cut its branches with a sickle. He fell from the tree and was fatally wounded by the sickle. it was a truly tragic event. At that moment, the traveler realized the figure that came out that night and spoke those strange words must have been a divine or demonic entity revealing the boy's fate. He then told the woman about the incident that had occurred that night and said, I did not understand what it meant at the time, and I thought it was just someone from the household saying something strange. But now I see it was a warning of what was to come. The woman wept even more sorrowfully. Thus, people do not realize that their lives are determined by the karma of their previous lives, and they mistakenly grieve over things as if they are happening for the first time. Everything is a result of the karma from past lives, and so the story has been passed down. The tale of the young girl and the dog who bit each other to death. 20. Once upon a time, there lived a man in a province in a district of Sac country. In his household, there was a young girl about 12 or 13 years of age serving him. In the house next door, the neighbor kept a white dog. For some reason, whenever the dog saw the young girl, it would attack her viciously, as if she were its enemy. As a result, the young girl, too, became extremely frightened whenever she saw the dog. Those who witnessed this found it very strange. Eventually, the girl fell ill. Perhaps due to the stresses of this situation, as time passed, her illness grew worse. The master of the house decided to send her away, but the girl pleaded, saying, If you send me away to a place where no one is around, I am sure the dog will bite me to death. Even when I am not sick and people are present, the dog attacks me whenever it sees me. How much worse will it be if I am alone, gravely ill, in an isolated place? Please take me somewhere where the dog cannot find me. The master, thinking her words made sense, prepared provisions and secretly sent her to a faraway place. He reassured her, saying, I will send someone to check on you once or twice every day. On the first day after she left, the dog was still at the neighbor's house. Thinking it safe and that the dog hadn't discovered her, they were relieved. But on the next day, the dog went missing. Growing suspicious, the master sent someone to check on the girl in the secluded location. The messenger arrived only to find the dog had made its way to the girl and had bitten her. Both the girl and the dog had locked their jaws onto each other and died in mutual attack. When the messenger returned and reported what had happened, both the girl's master and the dog's owner went to the site. They were shocked, amazed, and filled with sorrow at the tragic scene. Reflecting on the event, people began to wonder if the enmity between the girl and the dog was something beyond this world. Thus, the story has been passed down.